Fate's been generous when dealing out the crazy in my family. As a kid, I once made up a voodoo ritual so that a professional wrestling hero of mine could win a particularly important match. So this ritual included drinking a drink made of lemonade, chalk, and sawdust. It tasted horrible, but even worse, Bret Hart lost that match. One time my mother took 7 rabies injections because a healthy dog sniffed her toes. She also once tried to kill cockroaches by pouring expensive French perfume down the drain. When I was little, my grandmother packed brooms and buckets as carry-on luggage on a flight from Bangalore to Calcutta because she was convinced these items would be stolen in cargo. And then there was Shundor. I remember Shundor, or Shundor Dadu as we called him, as a tall, thin man with big droopy eyes and very sunken cheeks. He was my grandmother's, my Dida's little brother, and so she had a soft spot for him and always looked out for him. When he spoke, his lips let out air, so his mouth looked like the bellows of a harmonium. Like the rest of us, he was given a double helping of crazy. Once, despite being in perfect health, Shundor tried to convince his doctors that he was dying because his blood was flowing in the opposite direction. The fact that he was eccentric was an idea we all grew up with. And so it was all normal for us, as was our carefully coached reactions to his many, many stories. Smile, laugh, and be attentive, said Dida. So when we heard the same story for the 50th time from Shundor Dadu, we all laughed and endured those 45 minutes like the good soldiers we were. Stories about Shundor Dadu were more fun than the stories he told us. The first story I ever heard about him had to do with his obsessive-compulsive disorder. Sometimes I think we're all a little OCD, but in his case, his case was, shall we say, a little more acute. Apparently, he had taken to washing his money, each and every note that ever crossed his hands, and putting them to dry on a clothesline. I might get tuberculosis, he said. Who knows who's handling these notes? He also kept his doors and windows shut at all times for fear of coming into contact with anyone with TB. Subsequently, no maid ever cleaned his room, which created a fertile ground for bacteria breeding. So he got TB. One day when he was in quarantine, Dida went to clean his room. My mom tagged along, and among Shundor Dadu's many, many books, she found one about tantric rituals. Flipping through it, she came across a chapter titled Adrishya Hoibar Upay, which basically means how to be invisible. She still remembers the instructions. Keep mercury and a vulture egg in your mouth. Then the body will become light and you will be invisible. If he keeps mercury in his mouth and by chance swallows it, he will die and then anyway disappear, my mother astutely observed. Shundor Dadu had read that recovery from TB is faster with protein consumption. So he did what was only natural. He went straight to Shialda train station, which is a very shady part of town, and bought goat's lungs from a dirty roadside stall every day for a whole month. Then he got severe food poisoning. My Dida nursed him back to health, only to find him taken ill again a month later. Are you eating out again? She asked, only to be rebuffed with the vegetable gravy that you cooked had 1 chana in it. You know I don't like chana. That 1 chana made me sick. This logic being too bizarre to be argued with, Dida conceded that it may have indeed been her cooking. only to be informed a week later that Shundor Dadu had been compensating for the lack of protein in his diet with daily doses of ghee-laden laddus from another dirty roadside stall. Shundor Dadu's eccentricity had firmly established itself by the time he was in his teens. His twin brother had died in infancy. So Shundor had plenty of attention and a long leash. When at 14 he decided to stop going to school because school books were boring, no objections were raised. He was a consummate reader and continued to read books that captured his imagination. He created a world for himself with a line between fiction and reality blurred, and adventure was just a thought away. In the spring of 1953, my Dida had a slip disc. At the time, my Dadu, my grandfather, was posted in the far-flung small town of Ranchi in Bihar. With no relatives or any helping hand at this time of crisis, my Dadu called for his mother-in-law, my Dida's mother, let's call her Grand-Dida, to help out. My Grand-Dida came with her son in tow, a 19-year-old Shundor. One lazy afternoon, walking along the rusty red lanes that meandered through tribal hamlets, Shundor found something shiny in his path. Upon close inspection, he was astonished to discover that it was mica, which is a kind of mineral that was considered rare and precious till the 19th century. He was very excited with this discovery. As he went further, he found more. Indulging in his Indiana Jones-esque fantasy, he went forth to find the mica mine. His trail sent him further into the far distance, and by dusk he had disappeared into the misty hills in the horizon. Meanwhile, Grand-Dida was getting increasingly agitated by her son's prolonged absence. Night fell, and still no sign of Shundor. When my Dadu came home in the evening, he was greeted with a quietly hysterical mother-in-law and a very flustered wife. He went out in search of Shundor alone, which yielded no results, until he chanced upon the tribal folk in the nearby village. They recalled a young babu covered in red dust asking for directions to the mica mine. Now Dadu started following the same mica trail. And when Dadu finally found him 2 hours later, he was sitting on a small hill about 20 miles away with a pensive look on his face. Clearly, Shundor Dadu had not found what he was looking for, but Dadu thankfully had found him. Grand-Dida left 2 days later with Shundor. She suspected that he may venture into the jungle in search of the Royal Bengal tiger. So Dida convalesced alone. Shundor Dadu tales were scarce for a decade, with all of us scattered around the globe. Recently, however, we got another smattering of Shundor Dadu news through Ma. When he found out that she was in Calcutta again, he started visiting her regularly. Every morning at 9 a.m. sharp, Ma's bell rang without fail. And Shundor Dadu would make himself comfortable, discuss philosophy, literature, physics, and his favorite subject, disease. Eventually, my mom got PTSD from it and had mini panic attacks every time the bell rang in the morning. But she wouldn't send him away. One day, he hurried up the stairs and greeted Ma with a very solemn face. He had a very important question. I'm very concerned. I need pure milk, but all the commercially available milk is adulterated. I need to keep my own animal for milk. But tell me, should I keep a cow or a goat? Which one's milk is better? I'm going to keep it on the roof. Now note that he lives at his brother's home, and it was on his roof that Shundor was planning to keep this animal without discussing it with his brother first. Ma admitted that she didn't know enough about milk to answer accurately. So my uncle, who has a very high profile corporate job, got a call from Shundor Dadu while in a meeting. Shondipan, which is better, cow's milk or goat's milk? I need to know right now. I wonder if overseeing a corporate merger is easier than dealing with this question. Fate's been generous when dealing out the crazy in my family. But the crazy is more fun with Shundor Dadu leading the charge. What were eccentricities before are now diagnosable mental illnesses that can be traced genetically and treated. There's no romance in crazy anymore, no more caricatures. And how is Shundor Dadu now? He's doing great. He's actually in better health than his brothers and sisters. And it seems he might just outlive them all, as long as he washes his money. In fact, he called my mother recently to tell her that he's found something exciting about time travel in one of his books, and he's going to try it out. If traveling through time has anything to do with having faith that it will work, then he just might be the perfect man for the job. Thank you.